bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Now is the time to trim your lamps and get ready for the coming of the Lord. Stay tuned for the Midnight Cry broadcast.
Now the problem is we live our lives so often for Christ not believing who we are. And of course what we are is not something that gives credit to us. It's not that we say, hey, I'm somebody. We are somebody, but it's by grace. There is not a bit of pridefulness, not a bit of boasting that is warranted. We just have every reason every day to fall down and just thank God for His mercy and His grace. But my God, when our failures start causing us to think, oh, there's what God wants, I could never be that. It's hopeless. It's worthless. Why should I even try? Because you're a new creation in Jesus Christ. Because everything you will ever be is already there. You're not trying to qualify so that God will give you something you don't have. He's already given you a life that just needs to grow and needs to develop. You know, I guess we've looked at so often at Romans 7 and 8, but that certainly bears on what's been said. In fact, early in chapter 7, Paul talks about two ways to try to live for God. And he talks about the fact that we've died through Christ to the law and to all these principles that dominate the world. They are not for Christians. That is, as Ron has said, that is something God has imposed to teach men that they're sinners. It's meant to drive them to Christ, who is the answer to all of that. Not to come to live under law, but to be set free from it, to receive a brand new life that's capable of living for God. And so he comes in verse 6. He says, but now by dying to what once bound us, we have been released from the law. Why? For what purpose? So that we serve in the new way of the Spirit and not in the old way of the written code. You see, there's two ways people approach serving God. And a lot of people would say, oh yeah, I understand, I'm not under the law of Moses, but yet they're living in the spirit of that. They're trying to serve God in the strength of what they are, in the strength of self-effort. I'll guarantee you, you will fail every time, so will I. And we do, sadly to say. And so verse 14, here's Paul describing what it's like to try to live that way under the law. It says, we know that the law is spiritual, but I am unspiritual. So here's something God's imposed, and there's nothing wrong with it, but there's something wrong with me. I'm unspiritual, sold as a slave to sin. This is what every one of us is. If we're going to try to produce something spiritual out of the energy of what we are naturally, this is all we can be, because what we have naturally is a slave to sin. I do not understand what I do, Paul says, for what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. So it's clear something's happened to his value system here. He understands that's what I want to do. That's the right thing to do. But he said, I can't do it. I don't understand here. And I'm sure Paul probably went through this to get to this point, to be able to express it as well as he did. I guarantee Paul went through this. He tried to serve God the old way that he knew. He was a man of the law. That was how you pleased God. That's how you served God. You obeyed His laws. Bless God. He said, but God showed him, hey, it ain't going to work that way. And if I do what I do not want to do, well, I agree that the law is good. The very fact that I want to do something different than I'm doing means I'm agreeing that the law is good. It's not that I disagree with the law, just I can't do it. As it is no longer I myself who do it, but it is sin living in me. I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my sinful nature. Do you know that? You know, I don't believe people ever really come to Christ who don't come to understand that. There's not a thing about you yourself, that commends you to God. Give it up. Quit trying to be a Christian. The only way anyone can serve God is to give their hearts to Him and let Him perform a miracle. It does not happen by anything we were born with, naturally speaking. You can't do it. I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my sinful nature. Not one thing. But I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For what I do is not the good I want to do. No, the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but it is sin living in me that does it. That's the thing. If we live with our natural resources, that sin's just going to take over. I mean, everyone here, I'm sure, that's sought to serve God, sought to please Him, knows what it is to desire to do the right thing, and something just takes over. It takes you the wrong way. My God, we need Him, don't we? So I find this law at work. This is what Paul had to come to discover, to his, well, whatever you want to call it, his shame. I find this law at work. When I want to do good, evil is right there with me. For in my inner being, I delight in God's law. I want to do the right thing. But I see another law at work in the members of my body, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the law of sin at work within my members. Well, what other conclusion is there? In verse 24, what a wretched man I am. Who will rescue me from this body of death? I tell you, that's probably one of the greatest revelations there is. To see ourselves as we really are. Helpless. Even if you come to say, yeah, I want to please God, His way is right, you can't do it. Not in yourself. We need a whole different way of serving God.